You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
What's up, Cal fans? We are back with another episode of the Golden Bear Cast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We are recording after the Auburn game. Alongside me, as always, co-host Rob, world traveler, country traveler. You know what you should put on your LinkedIn? Been to the state of Alabama. Because the fact that I wasn't able to attend, I'm now convinced that that might have been my one and only shot.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the only other way we go is Matt. I was talking to Matt Ha about this, and Matt Ha was like, "Well, maybe we can be back when Alabama's hosting us for a college football playoff game." And I was like, "You're aiming too low because Alabama's going to be coming to Berkeley for the college football playoff."
All right,
first round game. So
that's a perfect segue into our first segment. Instant reaction, overreaction. Damn, what Kool-Aid are y'all drinking? Holy goodness. But I can see that. Was that said at Auburn, by the way?
That was said at Auburn. Okay. I can't remember if this was before the game or after the game, though. So,
oh, God. Before the game?
It might have been before the game. Dude, people were getting hammered on the streets of Auburn the night before the game. I can neither confirm nor deny that Matt Ha wore this exact same outfit before the game and at the game.
Yikes. As expected? Yes. That is as expected. All right. Rob, you had your season prediction at 9 wins. We're in instant reaction, overreaction. I want you to tap into the Rob that was on the field at the game. By the way, did you ever learn what the bushes were called?
Awnings.
Awnings. Never would have guessed that.
AWNINGS.
Like the same, like when you have an awning outside.
Yeah.
Never would have guessed that.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the subject. I want the feels, the vibes. I want the overreaction. Where was your hype level?
I think hype level before the game, like Friday. So we get in Friday night. We drive over to Auburn. We stop by Buc-ee's. It's our first stop as soon as we entered the state of Alabama was Buc-ee's.
You bring me jerky?
There's a bag of Bohemian garlic beef jerky waiting on my counter for you. It is.
Damn.
They said it's the most purchased, which is why we got that one. And I think
pick it up.
It's solid.
Saturday, San Diego State tailgate.
Yeah, or maybe hopefully before, so you can get a taste of it instead of it being here like a week at my house without you having tried it. Granted, all the preservatives, but
it's beef jerky.
Yeah,
that is literally made.
I know. This is a side thing though. But on one side, they had all these walls of beef jerky in all the packaging, right? But next to it, they had refrigerated beef jerky. It has to be in the refrigerator, otherwise it goes bad. So they have basically a non-preservative version and the preservative version, which I was like, I didn't know this, but which was really cool. And you get to taste test all of it.
Since we're on an aside, I stayed at an Airbnb in Hawaii on the Big Island with a very cool couple, in the little guest house.
Yeah.
And I ended up asking him if I could borrow his surfboard, and he's like, "Oh yeah, take it out." And then he came back after I was surfing, and he catches ahi and makes like and gives it to the local like sushi food trucks,
Sure.
and then he makes his own ahi jerky, which you have to
That's
keep in the fridge.
sure.
And it was amazing.
That sounds
So
amazing.
good.
That sounds
So
great.
good.
That sounds perfect. But this is pretty much that.
But
This is
shelf life beef
this
jerky is something that I have never experienced.
sure. This is ahi jerky, but in the Midwest where it's landlocked. This is what it is.
So they have all varieties: turkey jerky, beaver
got it.
jerky.
I don't know if they had beaver jerky, but yeah, they had everything. Like I got to try like the brisket sandwich at Buc-ee's and stuff, and I brought back like the jerky. I bought a $9 tumbler that has the Buc-ee logo on it. Just just memorabilia.
$9. I thought
Yeah,
the
it's
cost
crazy.
of living was different over there.
For like a coffee tumbler, like a big one.
So you're saying it was a good deal?
Yeah, I think it was a good deal. Like it's like the double insulated, like stainless steel stuff. So,
Okay. Was it Stanley?
well, not the brand, but yeah, similar vein. Looks like it.
All right. Dude,
but-
too far.
Yeah, too far.
Back
Too
to
far.
the story.
Too far. We're coming back. So Buc-ee's, check in at Auburn, Airbnb. Then we go out on the town. And the vibes are great. Like everyone's telling us like, welcome to Auburn. Like, thanks for making the trip out here. Everyone's super nice. And we go to like a couple of, bars. We go to a place called the Sky Bar, which is, I don't know if it's by them or if it's by a publication, but they said it is the best bar in SEC country. That was
According to themselves.
I don't know if it was according to themselves or if it was by some other like place, but it was if you've lived in the Bay Area long enough and been to enough clubs, it was like the temple of Auburn, Alabama. Like there was like you enter and there was like a live band playing with like a bar. Then like behind it there was a secondary bar. Like after you go through this hallway to the left on the outside patio, there was like another bar and like a patio. Then there's a staircase that goes up to the second floor, which has an atrium that you can look down into the first floor. But even that has a bar. And then there's a half bar if you go half down like a staircase next to it. And then the craziest thing was in the far back on the bottom floor was like a huge club with like a disco ball and everything.
Bottle service?
I could neither confirm nor deny. Like I don't think I didn't see. But yeah,
I'm so glad I wasn't there.
it would have been bad. I
would've
know.
been in trouble.
Knowing you, it would have been a problem that night. Everyone had a good night, but knowing you, we would have had. I was like, it was like midnight, and I'm like, I want to go home. It was crazy. I don't think I've
3 o'clock Eastern start.
game was 3:00 Eastern, so 2:30 start local time because we're central in Alabama.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it was a wild Friday night. But that leads into the game, and media will call didn't open until 12, so we were just kind of hanging out at the Airbnb. But let me tell you, man, like just there were tailgates being set up the night before. Like when we were driving back from the bars and club, like there were tents out, canopies out, RVs already parked, like they were ready to go all around campus. And to see that fill out on Saturday, leading into me getting, parking in the media parking lot and then walking about 2 very long blocks to the stadium. But on there, it was perfect because that road leads right into the Tiger Walk, which is they're like, I don't know what the Cal version of that is, where the bus parks and they walk up into the stadium.
Oh, we have that right over by Maxwell.
Yeah. So, but this is a lot longer, right? And they have like all these metal gates set up. It feels the way I described it to someone was, like when you go to Disneyland and the parade's about to start, so they set up like all the little like fences and stuff, and people start sitting and standing around those fences, knowing that that's the path of the parade. That's what was happening at 12:30 when the teams hadn't even come in yet. They're just masses and masses of people all standing on those barricades waiting for the Auburn Tigers to step off the bus and walk their way into the stadium. And apparently, I guess I didn't get to see it, but I guess players like do greet people, like take selfies with people and all that if they feel like it, or if they're locked in, they can just walk through. But you get to see your team make that entrance, and it's the pomp and circumstances is ridiculous. Side story here is after I saw the Tiger Walk, walking up the stadium or walking towards the stadium, I see 2 guys up in front of me wearing Mendoza jerseys. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me talk to them. Catch up to them, like, go Bears. They look back at me, go Bears. Talk a little bit, only to find out that one of them was Nando's dad.
No way.
Yeah, and he was there, and I asked him about, because Nando's brother, who plays for Indiana, got in and played in that game the night before because Indiana scored 70 and set a school record for over 700 yards of offense. So he got in on the game and threw his first pass, which was a completion in his collegiate career. And so I thought he was coming in from that game. And I was like, were you at Indiana? And did you fly in for this morning? He's like, no, like we I don't. He alluded to it kind of like we weren't sure if he was going to play or not. He's just the third string quarterback. But we wanted to be here for Nando, which makes sense. And then I think they were all watching the game on TV and they saw their second son make a throw and a completion in college football. So that was a really cool moment. Like just getting to talk to Nando's dad. Yeah. And then I go into the stadium, get set up. I walk outside and my God, man, I got set up and walked outside to the field and it was 75 minutes. So the timer, it says 75 minutes before kickoff. The student section is full, packed. And it's not, they don't have one section. It's an entire corner of the stadium. Like I think 3 or 4 sections, which includes a section for the band. All full, all wearing white, all like with the pom-poms and everything.
All wearing polos.
All wearing polos. I guess it's a very Southern thing. Yeah. But man, it's
all
crazy.
White people wearing polos.
All white. It's just all white. Like the views were like just crazy. Just like my jaw dropped. Is just like everyone's bought in and just like once again, the tradition, the pomp and circumstance of a game day, the atmosphere, like that was the moment where I was like, this is why I wanted to come to this game. Like I wanted to experience this type of atmosphere for myself for the first time. And man, it was awesome. Like it was absolutely awesome. Even the other photographers, the other like AP and USA Today guys that are there were super kind and nice. They they asked me if it was my first time out there, and they were like, yeah, these are things you can do. These are things you can't do. This is how you walk around and all that. This is where you go grab lunch and so on. And so yeah, everyone was just super kind. It was such a great experience to be on the field for this game, not just from a win perspective, but just being there as a photographer and videographer, like taking footage and stuff. So, but yeah, man, it was an absolutely amazing experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want overreaction, Rob.
Overreaction. It wasn't as loud as Notre Dame.
That's your overreaction.
I still think Notre Dame was louder. Overreaction? I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I feel like I should save it when we're talking about the actual game.
I want to know, I'll give you mine, and then I think you can go off that.
Sure. Please do.
Although it's like, I'm still trying to keep everything within perspective, but you get this win and you start thinking about like how injured this team is and what this team could look like. I mean, the pass protection, and we'll talk. Yeah. I mean, we'll spoil some of the game stuff. It's all good. So the pass protection in the first half was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. Obviously, Fernando was amazing and stepped into that opportunity, but like it was amazing, especially with our center chucking knuckleballs that were floating in the air. Like that was crazy. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What are these snaps? Yeah. The ball is just like floating in the air. It's like every play was a little bit off and we were still able to execute. It was incredible. And you start thinking, you're like, okay, cool. So we got San Diego State coming up. Trap game, right? Can't overlook that.
Nope.
But then I think like in conference, Florida State's not looking good. Like, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got a few texts came my way. It was like, see you in Berkeley, college game day, undefeated Miami at undefeated Cal.
Oh,
right. Like that's the overreaction, Rob. Like that's it. I'm saying like, did you get stars in your eyes? Like there was a part of me that was like, damn, like Cal ACC championship. Like there's a real journey, there's a real path that could exist here if this defense plays the way that it continues to play. This is always the trap because we don't know what Auburn's ultimately going to be. We expect them to be good. Peyton Thorne was terrible and hilariously bad. The refs, like, goodness. Anyways, I can't talk too much about everything else that I want to talk about. But that I think is the overreaction. Is like when I finished watching that game, I think my two biggest takeaways were, what does this team look like when it's healthy?
Yeah.
And this ceiling is higher than I think it's ever been.
Yep.
In the Wilcox era.
Yeah.
Mixed with like this, definitely the best O-line coaching we have had. Like feels like the Greatwood days, but I remember Greatwood still kind of struggled a little bit. Like this, there's a lot there that I think if we can figure out, like, you know, health and then run block. I mean, dude, like the potential of this team right now is high. That's my overreaction.
You're not wrong. Like I there's nothing about what you said that I feel like is like way out there. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
crazy though.
That's, I know, and maybe that's the crazy part, is that none of that sounds too outlandish. And like talking about this with folks like after the game, and you know, of course I'm with Avi, so we're, you know, debriefing after the game, and like the season's going to go in four quad, like, you know, we talked as kind of how we did the prediction show, right? Like it was 3 quadrants of 4 games. And that's kind of where we're at 2-0 now. We're at 500 in quadrant 1. The question is now, do we finish 3-1? Do we finish 2-2? Or do we potentially finish it 4-0? Because if you're able to finish it even 3-4, I mean 4-0 would be out of this world. But if you're even able to finish it 3-1, the amount of I guess it's double-sided, right? The pressure now mounts on the team of like, you've got to continue doing this. You've got to show that you can continue to do this. Flip side is, we haven't had this type of hype before, so we're in uncharted territory, and it's just a matter of like, we can't really set expectations because we don't know what it's like to have been here in so long. We have been here before. We just haven't been here in a very long time.
Yeah.
And there's like 10, 15 years generation worth of Cal fans that have never seen Cal in this type of territory before.
I think my only concern is that I don't know how much of a concern it is, or it's just sort of like a reflection, is that, so one, it's like, thank good. This is like the positive is like, thank goodness that we're not staring down a Pac-12 schedule, right? Because like that would be the question, is everyone says, well, you have to do well out of conference because Wilcox has never won or had a winning record in conference.
Yeah.
So there was like, in yesteryears, there was such a requirement for success in the non-conference, because we knew that we would be really forced to, you know, or would be really challenged just by the sheer strength of schedule. But now staring down an ACC schedule that we don't really know, and we don't really know these teams, and it's kind of like, it's like Syracuse and like Pittsburgh and NC State, and you know, but you know, I'm not talking about like Oregon, Washington, SC, UCLA, like, you know, that gauntlet, or Utah. Like the gauntlet is gone from the opponent standpoint.
Yeah.
But so here's my like shade on that, is that I wonder about the energy. Like you have to get up for these away games that are cross country in a way that I just don't know. There's something about like flying to Pitt that seems like a lot to me. And like you have to bring that energy that's different than like flying to Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona's like an hour and a half flight. Flying to Portland, hour and a half. Maybe hour and 10. Seattle, hour and a half. UCLA, drive, right? Like USC, drive. Like, I just wonder if it is a bigger emotional roller coaster that will have a bigger toll, and it will inevitably have a game that's like, oh, we should win that game, but we just spent too much energy.
It has. You're talking about like maybe the feels of like when we played at Maryland.
Yeah.
It's just something about it, just time wise, just didn't work with our body time frame.
Well, yeah, and I think that you're used to, like, let's think about what we're used to. So we're still in the segment of games that are familiar territory for Cal. We have not left that. We played Davis for FCS, and we had a non-conference game on the East Coast. But we've done that. We've had Ole Miss, we've had North Carolina, right? We've had these games on the East Coast.
Sure.
TCU, right? But and then we come back and we have San Diego State. Familiar. Everything is familiar. Where it gets unfamiliar is flying back cross country to go play Florida State. And like, that's the piece that I am just curious about, because it sounds ridiculous to say this, and it's not like Pullman is an easy place to get to, but it's easier than it's easier than going to Florida State. And I think that, like, once you break that, like, you have this energy because you're like, okay, this is non-conference, and then I come back to conference, and conference means I'm on the West Coast, I'm on the same time zone relatively. Like, I know what I am getting. I am in familiar. Like, I'm never going to have to travel more than 2 hours to go to a game, and I'm going to be back that night, no problem. Now we're talking about, okay, like, the same emotions that went into Auburn, where it's like new stadium, new fan, like new environment. You're building all of that hype back up. So to me, it feels like almost you're playing consecutive playoff games in playoff environments. And either I think a team can rise to that occasion and essentially become playoff tested and just be even more battle tested. But I also think it has the potential to wear people down in that, like, all right, the first time I went to Auburn, to Alabama, it took me forever to get there. Okay, it was dope, though, because we came away with a win. Then I fly all the way to Florida State in Florida, and then we bust there. Okay, cool. Maybe we get a win. I'm feeling pretty fired up. But it's the game, like, it's the Pittsburgh game, right? It's like, that's the game where I'm like in the middle of the season, and now you're it's freaking wintertime-ish. You're flying into Pennsylvania, flying into Pittsburgh. Maybe not. I mean, who knows if it's direct flight? Probably direct flight.
It is. I mean, they're flying
Right?
charter, so yeah.
Then, okay, so direct flight, and it's freezing, and you're tired, and you're like, where the hell am I right now? Like, how am I back on the East Coast again? That's the moment where I'm just curious if it's like the fourth time. You're like, I don't know if I mean, look, these are college kids. I get it. They're athletes. They're super competitive, and they're going to get up for every single game. But at the same time, there has to be an emotional toll that comes, I think, from this travel schedule. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
I don't think you're wrong. It's a very at this point that becomes a social experiment, right? It's just like a mental social experiment on it. And I think the aspect of that, I'm going to talk off your point, that I don't think the actual physical plane ride and getting there and playing the game is going to take a toll on these guys. But my bigger question is in any type of these games, you need to find an edge for that game, right? Auburn wasn't the travel. It was, we should have won that game last year in Berkeley. So we're going to come out and we're going to smash them in the mouth. Like that. I think that was kind of the revenge factor that gave everyone the edge for that. If you flip back to when we were in the Pac-12, a lot of these guys are from the states that we recruited out of and are now playing in. The Arizonas, the Northern Californias, the Southern Californias, the Washingtons, the Oregons, the Texases. Like, there's more ties there to give you that edge of like, I'm going back to play in my home state. I'm playing those guys that I've played for years. Like we should have beaten them last year, and that's the whatever I can get to get out that anger. Like there's that famous Tom Brady interview, right? It's just like he's looking for anything that he can get angry off of to use on the field. What did he say about me? Like, did he say I'm old? Like, did he say I can't throw? Like, any type of edge he can find to do that. I think that came naturally when we were in the Pac-12 because of the teams that we were playing and the history behind that. We don't have that with these schools now, with the ACC. There's no school on there that we've played in recent memory, maybe outside UNC, but we don't even play them this year. Like, I don't know where that mental edge is going to be generated off of.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
For those games. I think the way that the planes are set up and the charter and just the plane rides going straight into that area and coming right back out, I don't think that'll take as much of a toll as we think it will because of how I think a lot of people are thinking they're going to be packing them into like an economy like Southwest flight. But it's like, no, these planes are bigger and they're more fleshed out. And there's like, the seats that go fully reclined so guys can actually sleep and so on. So I don't think the travel part of it.
I'm with you a little bit there, but like I've been doing a ton of business travel.
Yeah.
And I get upgraded first class a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like,
but flip side, my devil's advocate point to that is you're probably traveling more than these guys are. These guys, we have 4 away games. Like, let's just say just ACC, right? Because we're going to assume that out of conference, like, who knows if we travel or not? It's always different every season. But out of or in conference wise, 4 times.
That's true.
Every season, and it's not back to back either. They made sure scheduling wise, you don't ever travel back to back. So, like, and even out of the 4, if one's an away game, that's Stanford, which is a bus ride. So, like,
really, we're only going east 3 times?
Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, Florida State. That's it.
SMU.
But that's not really East Coast. That's not long travel, really. That's like us going to Arizona.
What? No way.
To Dallas? Maybe it's got to be about equivalent time. It can't be more than that.
To Arizona. All right. Anyways, we're gone. We're too far gone.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's you're traveling a lot more than these guys, and that's probably what's taking a toll on you. But this is once every couple weeks.
Yeah, fair.
On a really nice plane. So
I'm just gonna say the water on the parade is gonna be. I'm calling Cal Pittsburgh a trap game. I'm calling it now.
I would have said it was Cal Wake Forest.
Cal Wake Forest.
Yeah, because it's a Friday night game too. That's the scarier one for me. Because that's really throwing off your schedule, right? Not only just like game week prep, but it's like your flight and like, leaving and when you're playing like drastically changes. Your body just like won't be in rhythm that night.
2 trap games, Pitt, Wake Forest.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. I kind of want to just talk real quickly about the 2 different perspectives that we have, because obviously I'm watching at home. Let's get into like I think a couple of like the bigger plays of the game, and the point in which I actually had the highest level of anxiety about everything was certainly, well, actually no. Let's talk about Fernando's first half. What did you see from the field perspective with the best half that a quarterback at Cal has had in the last 20 years?
Yeah.
What was it? Like, what did you see from your side?
It was because I stayed on the Cal side the entire time. I never ventured to the Auburn side. But man, at least the vibes on the sideline was just like eye-opening. Everyone's like, what the hell is going on? Like, not in the surprise thing, but it's like more of not in the surprise of his talent and his ability to do it, but more of the circumstance. It's like you're coming here in SEC country, like, and you're doing this, like right now, really? And it was just so like, I'll be honest, I'm more in awe because I have the game on in the background right now because it's on ESPNU, and I'm not looking at it right now, but I was earlier. Um, I'm in awe more of watching his throws here than I was on the field. Because I don't have depth perception on the field because I'm like eye level to the players, right? So I don't know how far down the field he's throwing. Like I have no gauge of that. If I was in the press box, maybe, but on the field, it's so difficult to do that. And so having seen the game and then watching that first drive of him throwing that ball to Isaiah Hunter for the touchdown, it's more impressive on the TV for me than it was in person. I think it's also because of the way he threw the balls. Like they were varied everywhere. Because I was talking to Ben while I was watching this just now, and it was like he's really impressed because of how varied all the passes were: sideline, middle, short, medium, long. It was all there. I didn't have a sense of that watching it. I just saw him make a read and make the right throw. So for me, I was more impressed with his decision making process into getting into those throws. I didn't see the angles in which he was throwing and the pressure he was getting and him standing in the pocket and being hit as he threw. Because I'm even with my camera, I'm chasing the ball. Like I'm not even right after he throws it. Like I'm not staring at him as he's being hit as he throws. Right. So like all of the circumstances of his performance, like make it even better to see. And my closing thought for this, at least from my end, you know how I've talked to you about the devil's advocate of for Rodgers or for Fernando. Like I don't, we were talking about like why they deserve to be the quarterback or why they might not deserve to be the quarterback. This was that game, Fernando, that alleviated that. Because you know how I said Fernando, the thing I wanted to see was, does he have that game in him? That one game where I can point to and be like, that's the ceiling we're looking for. Like we've seen it now, and that's what we can hope he replicates in every single game. This game was that. This game was the game I'm going to point to now and be like, that's the reason Nando's our starting quarterback. And that's where I hope he becomes like a top 2 quarterback for us.
What's up, everybody? It's Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart. I've got a podcast called Throwbacks with actor Jay Farrar where we'll be talking all things sports, but also so much more. We'll give you the behind-the-scenes stories from my days as the quarterback on an iconic college football team to Jerry's days as a star on an iconic TV series. So subscribe to Throwbacks wherever you download your podcast and follow us on all social media at Throwback Show.
Light it.
There's only one place you can hear a 3-time national championship winning head coach.
A Heisman Trophy winning running back and national champion.
And someone to keep everything on the tracks. Every week, Coach Urban Meyer, running back Mark Ingram, and me, Rob Stone, get into what matters most to you.
We take you inside the biggest moments in college football
While having some fun bringing you guests from all over sports and entertainment.
Watch Triple Option on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Fernando first half was awesome because first of all, as Fleming, as a Giants fan, having Fleming making the call in the game is awesome because, as much as it kills me that he went to Stanford, I do really love him as an announcer. But I think there was he seemed pretty genuinely surprised. Like
shout out Fleming and Brock Osweiler, who we met at the bar the night before.
What?
We met Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler at the bar the night before.
Dude, there's one moment that was so funny because it was the only time they ever showed them standing next to one another. I think probably was after half or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's literally just the picture of Fleming's head and then Brock's entire body. Because they're just way different heights.
So good. So good.
Well, I hope he was nice. How was Fleming?
Fleming was great. He talked to us and, for a little bit, and we didn't know Brock was there. And he's like, yeah, I'm actually, I'm calling the game with Brock. And then he's like, yeah, he's over there. And he points and we look, and he's standing next to a red brick wall. And I was like, I don't know how we didn't notice he was standing there before.
He's enormous.
The dude's 6'5". He's just
Did you give him a hard time for going to Stanford?
I did not, but I think one of our writers did. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's
we're good.
awesome. Okay. Job well done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the just genuine surprise in the voice. I think it was like I just think that everybody expected Jaden to really have that success. And Jaden looked hurt. There's no way, no other way to say it. I think Jaden looked hurt. Jet looked better, more explosive. And so I just don't think they expected Cal's success to come through the air. And then Isaiah Hunter is like a complete revelation. It's crazy. So, I go back to the O-line protection because I think that was like really like when I think about the game, is my biggest takeaway was, again, I remember from the Davis pod, I said that Chase Garbers would have been like, where the hell was this offensive line my entire career, Cal? Right. And I think I have the same thought coming away from the first half. Second half, they started sending guys and we couldn't actually figure it out. Like there's some like real stuff that we need to go back and like we need to be able to game plan a little bit better against someone that's just going to send pressure. Cause like otherwise we'll see it against San Diego State. They'll do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, I mean, there are also just some play calls that I absolutely loved. You know how we have been dying to see on like maybe like call it like a third and mid range, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, like kind of long, but like not super long.
Mm-hmm.
And we would always play against Oregon and they would run a screen and just let all of our D line come in after the quarterback. And they would run a screen and it would always go for like 20 yards.
Yep.
We had it. It was there. It was so cool. I was like, oh my gosh, here it is. Finally. We finally did it. And then, yeah, Fernando is amazing. I think he's just a gamer. As we said, like he just seems to have that calm, cool, collected demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, man, when Fernando went down, absolutely thrilled that we have Chandler Rogers back there because that was in not a light pressure moment.
No.
And we're so used to like, okay, you put in a true freshman, they fumble the snap, or who knows what could happen that goes wrong. But it seems like we have a high percentage of those plays that happen to us as Cal fans where you're like, oh, this could happen. And then it does.
Yeah.
And to have Rodgers, even though they didn't have him throw a pass, was immensely beneficial. And he had a huge run that actually like was critical for us, like from a possession standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think that like we're in a really good spot with both of them.
Yeah.
Obviously hoping that Fernando's knee's okay, non-contact, running out of bounds, scary situation. But overall, I think that like that first half was as comfortable, and he was almost too comfortable, if I were to say. Like there were a couple of times where I was like, dude, you gotta get rid of the ball. Like, there's I mean, he got hit one time. I think we like didn't block or like somebody missed their block, and oh my gosh, he got absolutely demolished. It was amazing that he didn't drop the ball. Absolutely amazing. Like it was blindside, just good night. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks. I know we always talk about Rodgers and Goff. We've had a lot of really good quarterbacks at Cal, and like to be up there and mentioned in those names, it's a pretty cool moment for him and really good for us going forward.